Sorry for the delay on getting this kit and this video out. This will be the third time that I shot it. It's now January the 19th. I actually filmed this right before Christmas and was going to edit it after Christmas. And I got to editing and realized that the video was corrupted. And so I was like, all right. So I had to take a little time to get another kit made up that I could sit down and shoot a video with. I shot that video and found out the audio was messed up. So this should be good, and we'll go ahead and move forward, hopefully. But this, I went through and completely redid my 1858 kit, the Remington 1858 inspired kit. And what I've done is I went ahead and made all the functions like it's supposed to, with the breakdown of the load lever, removable cylinder, all the actions work as they're supposed to until I push everything through the wrong way. There we go. Spring, the front of the load lever is spring loaded. So yeah, and then what I did was I went ahead and created the Clint Eastwood preacher brain nut work Pale Rider, Clint Eastwood's Pale Rider, where he played preacher. He had an 1858 that was cartridge conversion, and I know a lot of people show the cartridge conversion for him where it's actually like a modern conversion where they cut out the back and put in the piece and that. Well, for the one for the movie, they literally just took a regular 1858, ground it square, and then ground in the relief for the different chamber. But this one, well, I'll show you. It's half cock that, and we'll go ahead and take the cylinder out. We'll take that out. But so there's the chamber cylinder, and you know the body. You'll see the differences in the body here. Look around the corner. Okay, the converted one, the body's squared off, and it's ground off to allow the indexer to sit down in there and hold the cylinder when you drop it down in there. Where the original one's rounded because it's a cap powder gun. So it's rounded along with the chamber how it is, and it's made to where you can go in and move, revolve this and put your caps on. But let's see. Let me get that out of the way. So basically in the listing, it'll be listed, it'll be one listing for both probably. And it'll just be, I'll have some distinguishing pictures of this compared to this, but all the other functions are the same. This comes out all the way on this one because on this on the 1858, the load lever, the way this lever is made, it's got an indention cut in it, which allows it to ride on the back bone of this load lever. So it won't make it past. You actually have to take the load lever loose and off to get the cylinder bolt rod out of there. So, and this, I figured I made this because some of you guys had been asking me about like what it looks internally, and this will help you guys kind of understand also how it goes together. The only thing that you can't see is the hand on that would be on this side, the indexes, because it's on the back side. But basically, in a nutshell, how this works is, and it works just like the originals, do. It has a little arm with a slanted little post there, and when you go to the first notch, what it does is it pulls the bolt down and disengages the cylinder. So it's still engaged with the post right there. But then your next notch, it goes, and this one I don't have the backstop that normally stops it. Once it gets to a point, this arm pops up and flips past the post, which allows the bolt to re-engage with the cylinder, and it locks the cylinder in place. And then when you pull the trigger, all that does is the little metal arm, which this isn't metal, but on the gun it's metal, rides back up the slope and slaps back down. So that's one of the clicky sounds you hear in these guns. And that's a firearm turn clicky sound. So I just thought I'd make that just so you guys could see that's the internals of, you know, cut in half to show you guys. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and build this kit. And at the end, I'll go back over this, but again, the cartridge conversion builds exactly the same as the black powder version, the cap version. There's no difference in its build, except that on this one we have to glue in the little the cap nipples, where there's not any cap nipples on here. So we're gonna set this off to the side. This, if you look on the website in the folder, in the assembly diagrams folder for the 1858, you'll see this. It'll have the list of all the hardware, the number of each one. This one has a lot of little dowel pins in it. It's kind of a pain in the butt, and I'll show you guys how I distinguish them, because I could mark them and put them individually in a bag, but the second they're out and they're around each other, there's minute differences in lengths. It's not that hard, and I'll show you the easiest way to figure out which is which, besides just measuring them. But so this will go over, and it kind of points out to where most of them are, except for like the internal ones and stuff. But let me go ahead. Oh, and here I'll show you the Navy, the Colt Navy, and the Remington together. This is the Navy kit that I have. So anyways, let me get these off to the side here. We'll get this kit out. We'll go ahead and get it built. It is warm in my studio today. So you'll have your body, you're going to have your cylinder without the nipples in it. I do that so just painting the nipples, because if I put the nipples in here, made it all one piece, when you paint, one, there's a lot of goo places to get paint down in, but to maintain those details, you'd have to really get in there and try to sand out some of the stuff. This way they're separate, they're easier to deal with, easier to paint, all that good stuff. So, and there's our barrel. The barrel is notched. It will only, I mean, it'll go in any way, but you have to turn it a certain way to notch it. That way it makes sure your front sight is in the proper place. And so it's a load lever catch. You get all our stuff out here. And don't let all the little bag of small stuff freak you out. It's not as much as it looks like. So we have the trigger guard. We have the hammer. The hammer also, the hammer is different on that, but they go in the same way. On a conversion, they filed down the hammer to give it a firing pin, because you on a cartridge, you're hitting a primer in there, and then on this one it's going through and hitting the cap that's on the nipple and stuff. So so there's our hammer. There's our cylinder bolt rod. Let's see, got our orange tip that we had to put on there. We have our triggers. Boom. Okay, and what I did, and I actually just, I saw it slide off somewhere here. Perfect example of why. What I've done is in these, I've started putting in multiple pieces of some of the smaller wearable pieces, kind of like I will put in 2 bolts that has, the arm that pops over the part of the hammer. There'll be 2 triggers in there. If I didn't just, the trigger, I saw it go somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where it went. Okay, that is the rear, or that's the load lever catch. And you'll have 6 of these. You have 6 of these nipples. And then You will have the pieces for the load lever, which there's the main body, there's the front part of the body, or the front little tube section. This is the load part that actually is on the bottom, that when you do this, it goes into the cylinder right here. This is the connection linkage between the load lever and that. And there's also two hands and two hand springs. This is the hand is what actually hits the index on the cylinder and moves up and down and turns the cylinder. I haven't had any problems or any people, having any issues with these wearing out, but I decided, what the heck, it doesn't take any time at all to include a few extra of these little tiny pieces like this in the kit. And since y'all can disassemble these kits and put them back together at will, I might as well give y'all a couple of these extra. But like one hand and one spring is extra. You're going to only need one hand and one spring to actually put it together. You'll only need one trigger, and you're only going to need one bolt. So as far as these extras, I'm going to slide them off to the side over there. Let's see, and here's your fronts. Yep, there we go. Your front sight, which, it goes, well, in the front up here. So, kind of like, I have to keep turning around and looking at my view monitor, because it's actually behind me at the moment. So anyways, so there's your front sight. There's this is the load lever front catch. And that'll go on there facing, with the notch facing back and stuff. So, all right. So where do I want to start? You know what? We'll go ahead and we'll put the barrel on. Well, actually, hang on real quick. Well, you know what? I will go through these as we need them, since we got to deal with those. Real quick, I always cover this. You can use thick super glue. You can use model glue. Model glue is kind of gummy, kind of takes forever to set up. Thick super glue is great, but anybody that's used super glue, it cures really quick, so it's not very forgiving if you need to adjust something. I use CA glue. It's basically, long story short, 2-part super glue. You have the super glue itself. It will eventually cure on its own, but there's an activator. You spray on it and it will instantly cure. So you can put it on there, you can work with it, get everything set where you want it, and just hit it with a little bit of activator, and it sets up right away. I'm not endorsing this brand or anything. It's just I've used quite a few different brands and kept having, over the years, different batch quality issues that I would get. And so far, I've been using this for 2 years, and I've had no bad batches. So take that for what it's worth. But anyways, let's go ahead and hopefully this is, oh, it's open, good. So let's go ahead and we'll put like I said, we'll put the barrel on. Usually, if y'all have watched enough of my videos, I always tell you to put the glue down in the hole. So that way when you slide something into it, it pushes the glue down inside. Because if you put it on the shaft here and you go to push it in, what happens? It scrapes it up and it gums up around the edge. Well, on this is exposed a bit. So instead of putting the glue around the edge of this, what we're going to do is we're going to come put the glue, take a look at where it's at, how much hangs out, and we're going to come up to about here and put some glue. That way when we put the glue, it'll smear along this, but by the time it gets up here, there won't be very much left to smear, if that makes any sense. Because again, some of this y'all can assemble before painting. Some of this y'all don't want to assemble before painting. So all I did was a little bit around there. And I'm just going to slide that in and kind of wiggle it back and forth. And just trying to, since it's up in there a ways, I'm just trying to give it a minute. So there, it's already cured, good to go. All right. So So what we can do is, let's just work from the front back. We'll go ahead and put the front sight on. And of course, you know, it just sets in there only one way, you know, the direction a sight needs to set. So tiny little bit amount of glue, flip it over, go ahead and hit the bottom. And a lot of these little parts like this, when I get ready to put them together, I go ahead and hit the opposite part of the opposite piece that I put the glue on. There we go. I glued my finger right to the barrel like I knew I would. Like I'll put the glue on this part, hit this part with activator. That way when I stick it together, it'll start instantly curing. If I wanted to put that on there and make sure I had it just right, I could hold it and then spray it. You know, if you use it enough, you'll kind of get used to what you need to do and how you need to do it. So for the load lever latch, we're just gonna, that goes on there. And when you put it, make sure that it's flush on both sides. Nothing special. And again, on these little parts, I could put it on the barrel, the glue on the barrel, the glue on the part, you know, whichever way I want to do it. Just make sure, please, that you put it the right direction when you put it on. And the only reason I say that is because, you know, I build 5 or 6 of every one of the models I design as I'm going through and making changes and reiterations and stuff. And I'm not going to lie. I actually have stuck this on here, looked at it, said, yeah, it looks good, fits good. Okay, take it off. I'm going to glue it on there and look, and I glued it on backwards. So, I mean, it happens, but it's not a forgiving part. You're not going to get it back off. So, I mean, worst case scenario, if you needed to, you could go in and saw that off and turn it around and glue it back on. I mean, it would be nice and strong still and do a little smoothing, but always, you know, I guess it's that old adage about measure twice, cut once. Check twice and only glue once. That way you're not spending the rest of your time fixing your screw ups and mess ups and all that good stuff. So, okay. And let's see. All right. Making sure that little bag has got the lighting all messed up. Okay. All right. What do I want to do next? We'll go ahead and put together the load lever and all that good stuff. Just get it out of the way for now. And this also is where a lot of the dowel pins come into play and little springs and stuff. So for this, let's go ahead and just dump this stuff out here, and I'll go over all of it. For the most part, we can get like the biggest screw, which is the hammer screw. We can get that out of the way. Get this out of the way. That's the hammer spring and the hammer screw. We've got these short springs. One of these short springs is going to go in the front of the load lever. What we need to do, let me put these in my hand, and I'll just show you the size difference of all of these. Okay. If you can see the difference there, there's 4 different lengths that we're dealing with here. So the easiest way to tell these apart, and why I like to do the hammer last, is because the hammer uses one as well that the hand will slide on and allows the hand to rotate without any binding or issues. See all these little boogies off of here. Okay, now. Anyways, so what I do is, you've got a dowel pin that has to go through this hole across here. So what I do is I'll get these dowel pins and stick them in here. Well, that one's too long. It's touched here, so that's clearly not the right dowel pin. Let me dadgummit, find something. There we go. All right, so let me push that one back out. That's clearly not it. but it's probably the next longest one. And the reason I say that is kind of, so we put it in there, and if you see, it clearly is flush on both sides. So that's what we want right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this one back out. We need a small spring. We need that dowel pin. We need the front. We need this dude, this little goofy looking guy here. And what this is before I put the dowel pin in there, is we put the spring in there. This thing has like a little tab on it, okay? And if you push it back in there, if you notice, that slot lines up with that dowel pin, okay? What we have to do is we push this forward, and then we have to put the dowel pin in. So it's not hugely, terribly hard to do. I mean, it's one of those things that you have to hold your mouth just right and fight against the spring a little bit. All right, so what I've done is I'll push the dowel pin in. I made sure that it's flush on both sides. So what I want to do before I start trying to activate it or anything is now I want to go through and I'm going to put a little bit of smear of glue on both sides of that dowel pin. Not only does that mechanically connect, I'm going to wipe the glue off so that just what's in there is there. So that mechanically connects the dowel pin to the outer part of the rod. And so now, see what we have there? Works really, really, really well. So what we want to do, now this is one of those things that we have to make sure that we glue on correctly. If you notice, there's an angle in this where it's angled like that. If you notice, this is angled. Well, if you put this up here the wrong way, it doesn't want to set in there. If you turn this around, it sets in there properly. So what you want to do is, if you're holding this in your hand, this is the top of the gun. You want this at a 45 back this direction so that it matches the same angle there. Reason this is important, because this load lever, we have to make sure we're going to glue this in here. We got to make sure that we don't glue this upside down so that when it goes up, this is incorrect. We want to make sure that we have this correct. So again, this top of the gun, 45 going back towards the top. That way it matches the angle of what that is. So now that I've got it, I'm going to take this and I'm going to try to hold this dude without losing my orientation. I want to glue on this. I want to glue down in the hole. I want to glue the edge. I want to glue everything to make it as strong as I can. And I'm going to push that together. I'm going to look around, make sure there's not any big old globs, and then I'm going to hit it. Now, what I have is it's straight that way, good to go. My angle is correct. So now I'm going to show you, I'll put this in here and show you what I mean. So if you take a look, those angles match now, and that's exactly what you're looking for. So, you know, again, slow down, just take your time in doing it, because, you know, some of these things are vital. Will this still catch if you do it around the wrong way? Like, yeah, it will, and it will hold, but it just won't set properly. But if you do it the right way, it sets properly and, well, looks proper. So, so on this dude, we're dealing with this, this linkage down to this bottom hole. So again, we're gonna get our dowel pins here, and we've got to see which one is the proper length. So what we can do is just hold up a dowel pin, And this happens to be the shortest of all four of those dowel pins. This is the shortest one, is what goes in here. So first we need to make sure it's going to fit in the hole, and it fits perfect. Nice and flush on both sides. So we're going to do the exact same thing that we just did. We're going to push this back out. We are going to barely put it in. Well, I barely put it in too deep. We're going to push that through the hole of the linkage. So now, let me get little fuzzies out the way. So now we're nice and flush on both sides. The linkage works just fine. Move, rotate, so nice and strong. So what we're going to do now is do the same thing, go through and put just a little tab of glue. And really our purpose here is to get glue on here, and then we can wipe it right back off. But this is one of these things that you'll probably like want to paint the linkage and get the linkage painted, but then glue this together. Make sure you don't get any glue on the linkage itself. Paint the linkage, not this yet. And then once this is painted and good to go, put it in here, put the dowel pin in, and then paint this. That way, because if you put any glue and you get it on your paint job, you know, you can jack it up. But like this now, like I put glue on here and then wiped it completely off. So that way the only glue that went down in there by the dowel pin, next to the part in the dowel pin. And then I sprayed it, it dried. So now at this point, if this was already, say you're painting the gun black, this was already black, that's fine. This is ready to go. Now paint the whole thing. But, you know, go in there and, you know, of course, don't drown it with paint and stuff. Remember, it's easier to put more paint on than it is to take the damn stuff off. So nowhere does it say that when you do a coat of paint that you have to get it glossy, shiny, solid coat. Anybody ever tells you that has never painted anything. Just you can literally dust coat something, set back, let it almost completely cure, dust coat it again to the point to where you build a nice solid foundation and solid coat of paint without just gumming it all on there. But that's for a whole nother story, a whole nother day. All right, so, and I'm actually going to look at this one real quick because I don't really remember. And get that way. Okay. So, I mean, I could put it together and figure it out real quick. What we're doing is we want this profile that we're looking at here with these notches. You have the top profile, and then you have the bottom profile. We're wanting, and this is the bottom of the gun, or of the load lever. So we're wanting that to be that direction right there. What you can do, and now this is, oh crap, there it goes. See, this is the longer dowel pin. And I mean, I already know the difference. This one is the one that's actually going to be for the hammer. So the longest one always went in this body here. So what I want to do is, before I put it in here permanently and glue it, is line it all up and make sure that our motion is correct. If you put this on upside down, your motion won't allow you to do that. And that's the motion that we're looking for. Because if you put it upside down, I'm not even going to turn it up. If you put it upside down, you go do this, it'll move about that far. Because the arm will be coming up this way. You want this motion, so you can test it by putting it in here and going, yep, that's the motion that I want. It's going to go back and forth in there like it's supposed to. So what I'm going to do, since I've already got it here, I'm going to do the same thing. A little bit of glue, a little bit of glue. And again, if I was to paint this, I would go in and spray and paint the inside. Just, you know, do what I need to do. Paint the linkage, paint down in that groove. Like enough to where it's the solid color that I want. Assemble this, do my dabs of glue, cure it, and then I would paint this assembly like this. And it's okay, you know, at that point is if you're painting, if you get some glue down in here, because as glue or paint down in there, because as the paint is curing, just keep some motion on it. And you don't, you know, it's just kind of one of those things. As long as the paint can't stick to itself as it cures, when it cures, it won't be stuck to itself, if that makes any sense whatsoever. But yeah, and then, you know, because this whole the whole load lever is a singular color anyways. Now if you were wanting to leave like the dowel pin's exposed metal color, you could paint all of this, put it together, and then very carefully go in, and you could use glue that's not super glue or CA based, like model glue, and squeeze down in there and wipe it off. That won't hurt your paint. And you can wipe it completely off your paint, but it will squeeze enough down in those little cracks and crevices that when it dries, it will hold your dowel pins in place. So anyways, so back to this. What we need now before we put this in is we need to put our rod swivel lever in there, because again, you can't put this rod in or take it out once this is mounted, because they specifically, the way they designed it, and it was actually kind of cool, because a lot of these things you don't realize until you get into starting to do stuff like this, is they cut this U in here that's in this, and it matches that, like you can bring this all the way out. Well, of course, not with the rod up, but when you fold the rod up, it goes across here and it gets to that point and it stops because it can't squeeze past it. So it was actually a very, very simple solution to a problem of, hey, we don't want to lose our rods while we're running around out in, you know, out in the sticks and stuff. So all I did was I put the rod in there, put the plunger in there, went ahead and locked it together, and you've got multiple different little screws and stuff here. And let me see which screw is screw. Okay, which screw is screw. Geez, English much. Which screw it is. And you've got these different length screws. And you can tell by looking at them, one, these larger screws don't have anything to do with it. But we've got these smaller screws, and this shorter one of them is what goes down in here. So let me make sure the holes are lined up. And you just put the screw there and twist it a bit. I try to make the entrance hole a little bit loose fitting so that you can start it by hand, because God knows I hate these flat blade screws. That's the one thing, and I've said it plenty in my other videos, that I'm surprised it took so long in history for people to come up with a different type of screw to use besides the flat blade, just from the simple fact that on first assemble of things with flat blades, it just sucks. But anyways, so there's our load lever. There's our arm. See, it can't come past there. But our nice little load lever's in there, good to go. What we'll go ahead and do real quick is we're not going to put it in, but get this little simple thing out of the way. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to build the hammer, trigger, bolt mechanism. It's actually very easy to do, but it's just the last thing that I want to have to do here. So move this stuff out of the way. All I'm going to do real quick is glue in these 6 nipples. You've got, all right, if you notice, you have a cone shape and then a cylinder shape. Well, the cylinder is the same size from beginning to end. The cone is bigger and it gets skinnier that way. The cone is what goes up, just goes in there. And if you notice on the cone side, there's these little arms, or these little shoulders. And what it was is a tool that they could put down in there and unscrew and screw in these nipples. For accuracy, as you glue these in, make sure each one of these nipples are turned slightly different, because none of these nipples are going to land to where like all these shoulders are uniformly in the same place. So if you go through and glue them in uniformly, it just doesn't look correct. And also go around and look and make sure that there's no boogery stuff on the edge that keeps it from setting flat. I try to go through and make sure all this stuff is clean and clear, but I can't, you know, I'm a human being. I miss crap all the time. So I'll put a little dab just on the edge there, and I'm just going to set it down in there. And push it, and it would kind of just down in there. Same thing, I'm going to get another one here. And, you know, you don't need a large amount of glue. It's not, you know, like this big deal that it's in there a certain way. Yeah, I stuck my finger in that. And before I get too far and knock these sideways or anything. Oop. The one fun part that I don't ever get to do, and I haven't got to do in a long, long time, is actually sit down and paint any of my kits. Michael with Fan Fiction Props always paints all the ones that you see in the pictures and stuff. Just simple. I don't have the time or the space, and to be able to do it. I have all of my kits. I have multiple of all of my stuff built, but they're all still just silver. There we go. And Wolfguard Weapons, wolfguardweapons.com is their website. But they sell all of my kits like fully finished and painted and stuff. They have been for, God, we've been working with Wolfguard. Wolfguard, let's see, 2015, 2016, something like that, 2016 maybe. So what, almost 8 years now? Actually, in March it'll be 8 years. And then Michael with Fan Fiction, I've known him and been working with him since I think 2014. He makes some of the coolest leather stuff that I've ever seen. Makes some really badass stuff. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and slide this in real quick. I actually meant to make sure that the cylinder was clear. So that's what we end up with. Nice and smooth. So cylinder's done. First thing we're going to do is get these bigger screws. The biggest, longest screw is going to be the hammer screw. We want to make sure that this dude slides in here with no problem, no binding left and right. The longest small screw that's left will be the one that holds the trigger and the bolt together. We want to put them in there and make sure that the screw goes back and forth, no binding. I normally clean these up, like on here, the side that prints to the glass, I'll go through and remove the burr there. You know, I'm human. I do miss some of this stuff when I'm cleaning these up, but that's neither here nor there. So what we need to do is we're going to have this small dowel pin that's left. That will be the rotational dowel pin that goes in here, and the hammer, or I mean the hand, goes on here like that. So what we're going to do real quick is I need to glue this spring onto the back side of this hand. So if you look at the shape of the hand, you'll notice there's a notch. This needs to get glued on right there like that. Just like that. We're only wanting a little bit of glue in the very, very back here. We're not looking to glue it down this side. We just want enough glue in this back corner. And I'll probably glue this to my hand, which I do every time I do these. All I want to do is cram it to the back and kind of squeeze it on its sides to make sure that it is, we want to make sure that it's running parallel with the hand. And then I'll show you, like I just glued it on. It's up against the edge right there, so it's good to go. We want to take this dowel pin. We want to make sure that we can push the dowel pin through and through without an issue. Okay, and we already made sure the dowel pin fits the hammer without an issue. And you'll notice there's a hole in the bottom of the hammer where you can see the dowel pin, and I'll show you the reason for that in a second. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to snake the hammer into the top here. And actually, I don't need the dowel pin on there yet. If you take this hammer and drop it through, this is the only like kind of, when you're on a real 1858, what you do is to disassemble it or assemble it, you would push this down and the hand is there. And instead of a dowel pin, it's a screw, and you'd undo the screw and then pull the hand out. What we're going to do now instead is we're going to take the hand, and there's a slot, if you notice right there. We're going to take that and we just kind of rock it back and forth until it goes up in there. And what we're wanting to do is, I don't know if y'all can see, I'll try to, yeah, I don't think you can, but I'm looking to line that hole up with the hole in the hammer. Then you take this dowel pin and you slide it down in there and wiggle it around. And what will happen is you'll be able to push it through and go into the hammer. Now what you've done is you have connected them together, and you can pull them up and you can see the hand moving right there. You can pull it up and set the hammer where it goes. And now you can take the big screw. And like I said, the outside holes I normally make a little bit looser. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sitting here telling y'all the wrong damn thing. Hold on a second. I got the wrong screw in my hand altogether. This screw, sorry. Big screw, but it's of the shorter one there. That really long one is the grip screw. I'm used to the biggest screw on these revolver guns always being the one that holds in the hammer, and I forget on this 1858 that it's now a pass-through screw. Passes all the way through like it's supposed to. So I'm gonna get this screwed in, and when you get to the opposite side of the hole is when the hole gets tight. Now you don't want to tighten this and squeeze the body, and like you can check, and if you go too tight, you know, you just want it to land there. You don't want it to squeeze down and get all tight, but you'll notice how the hand comes out, pushes up and comes back like it's supposed to. And see, it's springy because it's got the little ride spring in there. So if you look upside down now, let me see if I can get one of these lights over here. There we go. You'll see the hole down in there. That's for this bigger spring. And if you look, let me set it down in there. So see, that's where that goes. So in a nutshell, this is what we're making. The spring will go in there, and it goes down around and goes into the back of the trigger. And what we do is we do that last. So what we want to do now is make sure the hammer is all the way up. This is our bolt. This little curved piece, we want to drop in, and we should be able to drop this bolt in and it's set flush. See that? It sits right there. It should set flush, and the hammer will be there. If you have it, if you have it in here and the hand goes in the wrong place, this won't set flush because you have it on the wrong side of the little post on the hammer. So I just take it, and you can drop it in with that going down that wall. And when you drop it in, it'll literally lay where it's supposed to. Well, then you take the trigger, and you're going to go for the same thing here. Is you got to take this screw, and you got to thread it through the trigger, thread it through the bolt, and then run the screw all the way in. And again, just when it hits the other side, just stop, because you can't over tighten them. So now that's where we're at. If you notice the bolt and the trigger's all screwed together, it's all in there. Got boogies all over this stuff. So what we're wanting to do is we want to take this spring, and we want to, well, first get all that back where it's supposed to be. We want to put the spring down in the hole of the hammer that I had showed you previously. And you just want to take the spring and you just want to bend it and make it sit down inside. I'm trying to do this slowly for you guys. There you go. And just feed it to where it feeds into the back side of that. And then if you want to take a screwdriver or something, just press on it. You know, it should be good. First click, second click, first click, second click, first click, bolt is out of the way. And then you go next click, boom. All right. So that's in. It all operates fine, but you know, trust me, you still got to deal with a few other things. You have short spring. Short spring goes, if you notice, trigger guard has a hole and the bolt has a matching hole. Well, hang on, let me untwist my arms. Has a matching hole. So what I do is I take the screw or the spring, put it to this hole, just kind of set it there, hold your tongue just right, and here, let me take this off. The back side of this trigger guard gets hooked into the body, and then it'll go down and we'll put a screw in here, okay? So that's the action we're looking for, but at the same time, we're looking to put the spring in here. So you can put the spring in here first or in here first and try to hold it, whichever you want to do. But if you notice, I've got it in there now, both sides. So I'm just gonna move forward and put that in there and bam, put that down. So we've got two of these little M3 6mm screws. We're gonna try to hold our tongue just right. And this is why I would do these assemblies where the screws go before I ever painted. That way you can go ahead and cut the threads. That way you're not struggling, or it'll lessen the risk of you sliding off the screw and hitting your brand new paint job. All right, so all good there. Our first click back pulls the bolt out of the way. Our next click back pulls the bolt up. Bam. First click back, second click back, bam. Works great. So let's go ahead and pull that down. We'll pull that back. And you got to make sure not to be pulled down too far. You want to pull back to the first click to get the bolt out of the way. When you put the cylinder in, you'll put it in and you'll just kind of rotate it a bit where it needs to go. So there you go. Nice and beautiful. All right. So then the next thing, we need to glue our grip on. And you know, on the real one, this is a hollow frame. And it's the frame is actually made with the body. Well, of course, in the world of 3D printing, we don't want to do that because we want a beautiful edge. And if I was to do leave it on the body and it prints standing up, you're going to get this funky, weird stepped edge, which we don't want. And also, I left it solid, one, just for the strength and the rigidity of it. So basically what we're going to want to do is we want glue on the flat surface. We want glue all on this surface. We want glue on the walls. We want glue on the edge. Because this is one of those places that it's a structural place. And this is definitely one of these pieces that I would glue on before I'd even start painting. Because it's one of these things that this isn't a natural seam. So you don't care about maintaining and keeping a seam or anything. So that's set for a second. Let me get this other side. Almost sprayed myself in the face picking that up. Pulled the Dumber and Dumber with the mouth spray. Goes sprays it off to the side. Oh, gotta love it. Anyways, so let that set up. Make sure you get it glued good. If you rock it and it feels like it's still rocking on you a bit or whatever, like I said, this is a structural connection. This is one of these connections that we want to be strong. I mean, we still want it to be, you know, pretty and look good. Get my finger off of there before it is glued down to all of it. Beautiful. All right, so anyways, let that set for a second. Here. Get that out of the way. Okay. So basically we're going to put our grip on, and if you notice it'll pass through, and it's just going to pass through to this other grip. And you know, if you want to paint this circle piece here like the brass color, which is like what the press fitting is on one that the screws into, that's kind of why I made that feature there, so you could, you know, follow up with it and finish it. All right, so there it is. Now, don't ask me, I'm going to be just honest with you, don't ask me why I had two of these screws in here. Again, this is the third time that I've shot this video. The first time the video got corrupted, the second time the audio was messed up. So this time I just tried to hurry and get out here, and I've already done two other new models and working on a third one. So trying to re-gear my brain back on this path is always, it's always a hard thing to go backwards, because I'm always constantly messing with things and building, making new models. And, you know, I actually made this model, the Navy, after this one, but the Navy video turned out perfectly fine, and the video for this one turned out like garbage. So it's one of those things. In the Navy, I had out, like, I think right after Christmas. So, and again, your orange tip, make sure you put your orange tip on there, because you know the law is crazy about that. Oh, wait, I'm dumb. See, this is what I'm talking about. This is why stepping away from this for too long before I make these assembly videos is so bad. The extra screw is that screw, is that screw right there in the front of the grip. I'm sitting here like, what in the heck? But you have to remember, I fully finished. The only thing that I didn't fully finish before Christmas was this conversion, but I had this gun fully finished in November. And before I made the assembly video, I was going to go ahead and finish up the Navy at the same time and do all the assembly videos at the same time, sit down, do all the editing, get everything ready, and release them right after Christmas, because I couldn't handle the extra load for Christmas, because you guys already kicked my butt during Christmas time. So I was, you know, I had this whole grand plan like I always do, and we all know how plans are, you know. But there is the 1858. I've been wanting to redo this one for so long. I mean, my first one I made served a purpose, and it was okay. I was never the most ecstatic about it. But yeah, so there is the new 1858, fully articulating, fully, you know, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to use the word functional, because for Christ's sakes, if any other freaking Google search engine or something else flags me for selling firearms or explosives or ammunition related crap, I'm going to lose my damn mind. It's, the whole thing is just driving me insane with the overprotection of the world. But anyways, that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. I hope you guys like it. I hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions, just comment down below or shoot over to my website, traywickdesigns.com, and send me a message there, and I'll help you any way I can. I keep getting a lot of questions. Do I do commission work? I do commission work, but I am about a year out on commission work right now. One of these days, in a perfect world, I'll get to a point to where maybe I can have someone helping me create the, you know, all the kit creation, the bagging, and the shipping. My son has been helping me a lot with that, and getting more geared up with that, and I completely appreciate that. But at the same time, it's just I get 30% of my time to model, and 70% of my time is printing, cleaning everything up, bagging the kits, shipping the kits and all of that stuff. So in a perfect world, if I could just sit down and make models and not have to do the 3D printing and the creating the kits, I could create so many more freaking cool models. But you know, it's always a balance. But again, I appreciate you guys. Have a good one.